Om Vang me manasi pratishthitam mano me vachi pratishthitam aviravir edhi vedasyama ani sthaha shrutam me ma prahasihi anena dhitena horatran samdadhami Ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami tanmam avatu tadvaktaram avatu mam avatu vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today I thought we will jump into the book number 5 because it is easier to start with. We covered the hymn number 1, very kind of many things we spoke which are irrelevant for that hymn, but still on the accent, on the pronunciation, on and there was a suggestion, of course, to make an overview of all the 10 mandalas and the Rig Veda and maybe the whole Vedic literature before we plunge into it. Yes, more. Maybe I will make 10 minutes overview first before we go into book 5. So Rig Veda consists of 10 books, 10 mandalas. Most probably I already spoke a bit about it, yes. Rashi, you know this, yes? There are 10 books, 10 mandalas. And the first mandala is the combination of all the different rishis who didn't have more than 20 hymns. So you cannot put it into the separate book. So you have to combine them within one book. So Vyasa is the composer, the Rishi Vyasa, who is the author of Mahabharata and all the Puranas according to Indian tradition. He is the one who is compiler, not composer, but compiler of the Vedic hymns. There was a huge Vedic tradition before. There were many different rishis, many different shakhas, recensions, yes. Each Veda, each Samhita had a number, infinite numbers. For example, Samaveda Samhita, according to tradition, had 1,000 different recensions. Rigveda had many. And now Rigveda has only one, basically. And Yajurveda has only 5. 5, it is 4 major Krishna Yajurveda, yes, and 2 recensions from Shukla Yajurveda. So you have only few came down to us. And so these were compiled by Vyasa into what we know as the Rigveda Samhita. And this Rigveda Samhita has 10 mandalas, 10 books. Actually, it's not a big book. If you publish all of them, that will be like 10,000 verses or 1,000 hymns. Yeah? So each mandala has approximately 150, 190 hymns. So the first mandala has 191 hymn, and the 10th mandala also 191 hymn. And in between, different mandalas have different numbers of hymns. So the first and the last mandala are the mandalas which are collecting different rishis. Yeah? Oh, Anuradha ji, namaste. So I'm just browsing through the whole mandalas, yes, starting to speak how it is being organized by Vyasa. So the first mandala is the most interesting from our point of view because the very rare, very ancient rishis are there. you can find there's Gautama Rahugana, which is very great rishi, very ancient one, or Dirghatama Uchatya, or this Agastya Rishi. The last 20 hymns are belonging to him of this mandala. So these are very archaic, very ancient rishis, yes? And there is Parashara Shaktiya, that very Parashara who is considered to be also the father of the whole Jyotisha, yes? And many more, like very rare rishis, like Hiranya Stupa Angirasa, yes? If you look into their names themselves are telling us something very beautiful. Hiranya Stupa, the golden pillar. The golden pillar Angirasa. Angiras is the flaming, we can translate it into English as a flaming golden pillar. This is the name of the rishi. You can imagine what kind of force it has. Or Dirghatama Auchatya. Auchatya is from Uchathi. His mother was the very goddess of word, the word itself. And Dirghatamah is the long night or long darkness, infinite darkness, the word in the infinite darkness, as it were. So if you think of these names, they are kind of telling us something about what these rishis represent. And it's quite interesting that in the Rig Veda, rishis are those who speak the word, who speak the mantra. And anybody can be rishi. Not only human beings, not only the seers, but also the gods. The gods are also rishis when they speak the word. So the tradition views rishi as the one who pronounces the sacred mantra, who speaks the word, because the word is the power which manifests higher consciousness. And that power to manifest is the power of rishi. Rishi is actually in the later tradition, there are 7 rishis who are the sons of Brahman or Prajapati or Brahmanaspati, who by their powers manifests the worlds. So these mantras are the manifestations of different higher powers of consciousness into this world. It's quite interesting to think of rishis as manifesting powers. And there are these 7 stars of the big bear constellation, or that big dipper, which points to Dhruvam, to the polar star. And we know that the polar star is the center of our galaxy, which is not moving. All the stars are moving around Dhruvam. Dhruvam means steady one, which is not moving. And so these 7 stars are moving around this dipper, the big bear, riksha in Sanskrit. Riksha is the bear. And it's quite interesting because riksa, that one which is bringing Rig Veda actually. Because these are the rishis who manifested the word. And from here, even Arctus is the bear in Greek, and from here Arctica because the white bear lives there. Arctica, Riksha, all that is connected somehow, to the rishis. In Russian language, bear doesn't have a name. For example, it's Medved. Medved means madhuvid, if I translate into Sanskrit. The one who knows where honey is. Riksha, the one who brings the rik, who brings the word, the luminous word which manifests the honey, which points towards the honey. Honey means the higher Anandamaya Loka, yes, the world of bliss. So all this is very interestingly connected, that these ideas in Indo-European languages and people. So Rig Veda is not a simple word, Rig. That Rig, Riksha, the bear, and the rishis, those who manifest the Rig, that very flaming power of consciousness in the word. So from here we have words such as Arka. Arka means a hymn, and Arka means the sun, the luminous expression of consciousness is the word. So you can see how many meanings are coming together in this simple kind of exploration of Rig Veda. And Veda itself is Veda, from root vid, discovery or recovery of consciousness. So this discovery or recovery of consciousness can be done only with the Rik, with the luminous flaming word of the Rishi, of the higher consciousness. And as the Rishis themselves said, that one of the Rishis, I think it was Gautama Rahugana, he says that he created this hymn as the carpenter creates the chariot to rise into heaven. So it helps him to rise in to raise his consciousness to heaven. So these are chariots which are uplifting our consciousness. And that's why they were created here for humanity. And if we read these hymns with the mind which is allowing us to dwell on these imagery, then it will be built. Something in our consciousness will be built. The gods will be born within us, which would allow us to rise in consciousness. So these are the rishis. And who are the devatas? So in each hymn we see, first of all, who is the rishi, second of who is the devata, to whom we invoke, what kind of power, higher power of consciousness we invoke by this flaming word. So there is this flaming word by the rishi, or the invocation as it were, and then there is someone who is invoked, the answer, and that is the devata. It's very beautiful if you think of that. And there is a chandas. Chandas is the meter, that particular rhythmic manifestation of consciousness by which this word is captured, and not only the word, but also the answer. Both. So chandas in a way is something which is common to both, to the answer and to the quest. If you think of it. Yes, Anuradha?
No, it just struck me now listening to it. I was trying to figure out what role the chandas plays, because sound independently, like the words independently carry experience. The words by themselves, because it is a certain vibration, it is a certain frequency, is a carrier or a conveyor of a direct experience. But chandas, it seems to me, and especially since you're saying that it resonates with both of them, it's that resonantial frequency in a sense. So when they're both resonating in it, then the power of that word is much higher.
Absolutely.
It's like the word is carrying on that frequency, of that common frequency between these two.
Yeah, it is like an embodiment of some kind of first of all the invocation, and then the answers or the birth of these higher powers are within a particular framework. What is chandas is the meter. The meter, yes, ta 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 meters. There are different meters, different rhythmic pulsations which embody the word. It reminds me of my experience of when I was reading Shakespeare. in the evenings. I said I will never read Shakespeare in the evening anymore because you can't sleep afterwards. He has such a powerful rhythm. Yeah, he uses this iambic pentameter, by the way, which Aurobindo is using mainly. It's quite interesting that Aurobindo took it from Shakespeare into his savagery. Yes, it was the hour before the gods awake. So this is the meter he is using. So when you read Shakespeare and this meter is everywhere, it sounds like you're reading the prose, but meter it's a rhythmical, powerful, pulsating text. So when you go to sleep, when I went to sleep, then this meter is continuing to hammer in my head. So I can't sleep. The words start to come. It's like the rhythm calls to the words, and the words are filling the rhythm. And you just jump and you want to write down this poetry. It's so poetic. It's so powerful. The right words are coming and filling the meter. They are filling this framework, which is holding them perfectly now. They can be held. They can produce the effect on consciousness. So I can hold on to the word which produces effect on consciousness. This is the meter. Yeah? Another.
Or just another thing that struck me is it's like if one has to consider the inner atmosphere of the human being, it normally is such a noisy mess that what the meter does is it brings in this order. It's like if you know of the concept of entrainment, that if you have on a metal thing, if you put these what are metronomes of that are
Yeah.
doing that at different paces, and if you just keep them like that, and then you keep it on a kind of a metal roller and all, and then they'll all start doing it in the same direction. So the inner atmosphere of the human being is circumstantially such a noisy place that when you do this ta 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 ta, then the rest of the being also starts going
Yeah.
pulsating with it, and the environment or creation itself is pulsating with a rhythm, that dharma, because everything has its rhythm. Everything, that's why the ritu. So
Yeah.
all of creation is in harmony. That's
Yeah.
the rhythm of. So there is a rhythm. It's only the human inner which is completely in a mess.
Yeah.
So when we also start doing this, then we get into that tune. We sort of align our inner vibratory nature to, fall in entrainment with that cosmic vibration,
Right.
and then answers come more easy because then it
Yeah, you can hold the consciousness, you embody it in, because this meter is the power which holds the rhythm, holds the strength with consciousness. Strength, power, and consciousness come together in the meter. Finally, they are matched, and the embodiment of higher consciousness can take place finally. Otherwise, it is very fluid, very luminous. It cannot be held. There is no container. It's a container, which can contain the light of higher consciousness.
Actually, in great poetry, it is said that the form and substance, they fuse. One enhances the other. So
Right. Absolutely. And the greatest poet who is the one who knows how subtle it is, the sound and the meter, and how they have to go together. And these are the greatest poets. Rishis were the greatest poets because they matched something which is very difficult to match in the format which is allowing that higher consciousness to reveal itself in this world. They bridged that inner consciousness to the surface using this meter, these chandas.
I mean, it seems to me as if, like I said, everything in nature is generally in harmony with, the uh, larger intention of creation. And by that very pressure, by that very fact, there seems to be like a pressure on the human system to align, to be part collaboratively in that larger work to be done. And because of the manas and all that, we are not in sync. And so these chandas and the rishis and all in the silence, they put themselves in tune, and it came to them in different ways. And depending on the focus, the rhythm changed, because it depends on what they are doing, which is the particular force they're invoking. So once they align themselves, then, like you said, the power, the word, the
This is
meaning.
this is another aspect which you brought forward, that is social culture. What is culture? It's that I know the meter, you know the meter, and we can vibrate together in unison, and we can allow this higher consciousness to vibrate through both of us, through the whole social structure, which is actually the ritual. The ritual is built on this repetition or meter. Yeah, absolutely.
And that is also perhaps how the subconscious can be tuned eventually.
Mm-hmm.
The collective subconscious. No? So the more people, the greater the number of people who are engaging in these chantings, let's say, in these rituals, in these collective rituals, the more. That's why I think the mother also created Aurobindo, because then you have a certain tipping
Yeah,
point. You have
absolutely.
a tipping point, and then the whole mass will come along. But you need those few people who are attuning themselves, literally, who are attuning themselves with the mantra and the chandas.
Yeah. So Chandas is like a picture, like a blueprint, which allows everybody to kind of to make the same picture, so to say. Everybody draws the same picture over the same picture, and that picture becomes more and more vivid and more powerful, more and more supporting every individual because of its rhythmic value. And that is also building up the whole chain, or that what we call egregor of the social structure. Social structure can be held now in the meaningful fashion, in the meaningful direction of development, progress, evolution. So not only me alone, but with everybody else, we are attuned to this higher consciousness. Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
and it seems like the chandas is more primal than languages. So the
Mm-hmm.
chanda sets the tone. So it doesn't matter what languages. And then certain languages are more, what do you say, more carriers of direct experience. But if everybody is in the chanda, everybody. So that's why Aurobindo Savitri is in English, but still it carries that rhythm with it. So with that rhythm, wherever that rhythm, you'll start resonating similarly, and then meaning will come in. But the movement is aligned. Everybody's aligned in a particular direction, and I think that's what chandas seems to be offering.
Yeah, yeah.
I think chandas are like scales of music. Each one has its own mood and its own.
It's like ragas of a particular kind. Ragas are more maybe like melodies. Yes, chandas is something like this tabla is, playing a particular rhythm into which music can feel or flow. It is
Tala. It is not raga, it is tala.
You have
The
this counting, in this in the dance, like
Tala, tala.
tala. Yes.
the raga seems to have a more subjective component of a universal truth, whereas the chandas seems to have a more generic, a more general collective movement. It's not so subjective, while the raga has a lot of scope for a subjective subjective exploration and discovery of the truth of sound.
Yeah, and I like these ideas. So you see how rich it is. This, yeah. Rashi, what do you think? You are into this also very much so. Yes. So rhythm, tabla, there's something basic, some drums in the aboriginal cultures. What they do, they allow everybody rhythmically to move together, to dance together. This rhythm is repetition of the movement, which is cognized by me and you as the same. It gives the force kind of embodiment. Yeah. It's not the meaning yet. It's just tuning us together into one.
So next month I'm doing a workshop called The Mystery of the Sound, Awakening Through Music. So everything is everybody's talking about is what we're going to experientially do for our university.
Very
I
nice.
just did vital education through art last week. So the same thing. It's in theater, it's in shamanism, it's in the sound healing that I do. It's everything the same. So I'm hearing newer and different forms of the same ideas. So it's good.
Very lovely. I can imagine how everything beautifully fits into one kind of rhythmic picture. And Aurobindo speaks that chandas are they are considered to be the powers which manifest the worlds. And this chandas is actually the power of Shiva, more than of Vishnu. And if we think about Shiva and Vishnu, that Shiva is with these drums, he comes with these, and all this and this and that. These drums, actually the whole Paninian grammar, yes, all that was because of these drums, he got the sounds, all this, the whole Shiva Sutras or Pratyahara Sutras, all this, they are all revealed, like this is like so he got from there the idea of the whole alphabet, how to arrange the whole. It was revealed to Panini, and because of these Pratyahara Sutras or Shiva Sutras, it came to him how to arrange grammar in a concise way. Because the alphabet gave him the keys how to really, make it brief and precise. And it's a profound knowledge. But you can't get it by yourself. You need a revelation of some kind. And so Shiva was giving him that sound, which led him to the description of grammar.
Can I just add one more point here? So it's very interesting as you said that, because it's like when the system that is noisy gets rhythmicized, then it destroys our individuality also. Mm-hmm. And it helps us break free from our own conditionings, in a sense, at a certain level. And Shiva, nice. That's why one of the portfolios of Shiva is destruction. No, he just lets go, let go. So that letting go and putting us in tune with something greater than us is what also fosters or nurtures immortality, because our system is clogged by our subjective noises. Over time, the system gets totally clogged by all the different experiences that we have that shape the inner world of the human being. And when this Damaru happens with its unconditional, in a sense, rhythmic thing, it's just doing it because that is to be done, and it has a greater thing, then it tunes the inner being to, again, the larger flow of the transcendental. And that allows the individual limitations to break through.
I love this idea.
Flow, all of that.
I love this.
And then immortality, because prana moves. It's like prana moves freely because it's all opened up.
Very nice.
What she's talking about is what we do, like all the actors in the circle, and they're doing the feet and dum, ha, ha, ha. And slowly it rises, and then we say no sound from the mouth. And the body is still in the beat. And then we say the body stops moving. But inside, everybody's beating in the same rhythm. And that's when I say, okay, open your eyes and now start your dialogue. And everybody starts to do their own dialogue, because they have killed the actor, person, ego, personality, and become the character. So what she's saying, we actually do that to remove the actor from the character he's supposed to be playing. This is one exercise we do exactly the same way. All the steps same.
Very interesting. Well, it has practical implications. I like the idea also of this noisy personality, which we consider ourselves, to make an order, some kind of order which is not ours, but which allows us a deeper ourselves to kind of glance through, so to say. Because
yes.
something has removed. Yeah, suppose it has been removed. Yes, Gitanjali.
No, it's because I think like there's a realm of music, right? Which Mozart and Beethoven or others, they access. So similarly, I think there is a realm of chandas too. And when that is why Amal used to always tell me that to read great poetry itself is makes you a poet when you read great poetry, because you come into that, in touch with that realm, I think.
Yeah. And it is not only rhythm there is also meaningful words, sounds, and meanings. Meanings are put into the rhythm. Can you imagine how much it is poetry? It's much more just than just the sound, because Chandas itself has a power without words. I was playing this game in linguistic department. I was telling that I can read to you a poetry without any one word, and you will be taken by it. We can even try. It's a good thing for exercise.
Let's do it, Vladimir. It's so much fun.
Now, for example, I will just read to you a poem. It's a Russian poem. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. You got the whole feeling of it. There is no one word, but I charged it with consciousness, without words. It's an amazing thing. Just if you think about what rhythm is, how it can carry the consciousness, and if you charge it with words, with meaningful, higher words, what power it could have. Even this can have a power. There is no one word.
I mean, just very interestingly, again, when you have an army that is crossing a bridge, they say that if they go in the same rhythm, then it will break the bridge because of the resonance, the frequency of their collective rhythm can actually break a bridge. So they always break the rhythm before an army crosses a bridge.
The bridge,
Yeah. They have
because
to break
resonance.
Yes, it'll break the bridge. So again, an interesting connection with spirit and form, that the form is destructible with rhythm. Any form is destructible with rhythm. And if you want to keep form, then you don't get into rhythm. And if you get into rhythm, then it will break form. So again, the formalization of our being. I'm reading this book, which is again a fascinating one. It's called The Reality of ESP, which is extrasensory perception, by someone called Russell Targ, a physicist who did a lot of experimentation with psychic experience. So where he's saying that there was one particular artist who was very psychic, and he could tell things at a distance. You give him coordinates, he'll be able to tell you what is there in that coordinate. And he talks of non-local awareness. But in that, he has this, he says, what is the obstructor to psychic experience? Because he says anyone can do it. And then he says, what is the obstructor? He says, mental noise. He says, in order to access this awareness, we must first learn to recognize and quiet our mental noise. One of the primary causes of this noise is the desire to name the things that we experience. And then he says that it greatly, then he says it greatly interferes, this naming of things, images, the desire to name, and thus the images, concrete image emerges as it rapidly does. It greatly interferes with our ability to go further than the remote viewing. Naming, along with memory, analysis, and imagination, are the principal inhibitions to psychic functioning. He talks of a Buddhist text. But this whole thing of naming, memory, And we see why in the supramental being there will be no memory, because you resonate directly with the rhythm of existence. So the rhythm brings us into contact with rhythm. I mean, it's quite fabulous. The entire connection is fabulous.
Interesting idea of naming, because naming is actually, according to Vedic rishis, it is said that the rishis brought new names. They discovered and brought down the new names. So what are these new names? It means that things which were never named, which were never manifested in whatever form, were discovered in consciousness, formulated, and brought forward for manifestation. So
those would be psychic names. So the source of the naming is very important. If you're naming it from a mental perspective, then it is necessarily bound by one's impressions about
memory. Yeah, you memorize. You basically take from chitta whatever is there available, and it is popping up without you even wanting it. Yeah. So we are speaking faster than we think, even, and then we just notice that, oh, okay, that's what, yeah, blah blah blah, what is called. Because everything is ready to jump into manifestation. Everything wants to be manifested through our consciousness, and all those layers of chitta, lower subconscious layers in the memory, they want to come into light of existence. They want to live again. By the way, Mother describes this beautifully when she, in already 71, she says she had this strange experience of her experiences coming back to her from her childhood and from her youth. Some ideas, some desires, they want to come back and to live again through her consciousness. This is what is happening. That's why this chitta is constantly invading us with all these layers upon layers of memory from the immemorial times, which want to come back to life through our consciousness. And these are the names. That is the noise you are mentioning. That's the noise. But the names which are psychic, which are fresh, which are new, is not noise. Something else. It's a great idea, by the way, of this physicist or whatever, the noise by chitta. And that's why yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. Stop the noise and you will see the truth. Great. So there are more things to say, but I want to hear what Charles is thinking, because Charles is thinking something there, contemplating.
Well, I because I don't have the understanding of the tradition that everyone else does, and so I heard from my own perspective, and I asked myself questions of that this the intelligence, the vastness of the intelligence of the beings that brought forth the Vedas and the Rig Veda, that is so far advanced, and then they delivered that information to a culture that was already so far advanced in order to be able to even understand these concepts. It wasn't a primitive civilization that this was brought forth. And so what happens to me in this conversation is my sense of the cosmos has really expanded, because there's so much more to this story than my life or the time in which I live or 6,000 years ago. This story is so vast that it goes beyond anything that I had ever conceived of before. And I'm hearing this from a place of that on planet Earth, there are some beings that want to social engineer. And how do you social engineer and develop the human brain and the capacity of the human heart to be able to embody the truth that is being brought forth. So for me, all these conversations that I'm experiencing are so stimulating, because I just haven't thought like this before. But I really believe that these sounds and the meter and the Sanskrit and all of it, it's really it's beyond words and it's beyond meanings, because what it's doing is developing new neural pathways in our brain and within our heart that have to be done in a way that is non-intellectual, right? That is something so vast. And I'm so grateful for everyone's input, because this is wonderfully fresh for me. And thank everyone. It's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Definitely, this was a great, very stimulating discussion on the meter. And if we look into the meters per se, we will see what they represent. This, Gayatri, why Gayatri is so popular, or Anushtup, Gayatri and Anushtup in Pankti, they go in one set. Basically, there are only few basic meters in the Veda, in the Rig Veda. Later, there are many more. There are hundreds of meters in the classical tongue, but they are different. They are not so structured. Something got lost. Something got, watered down, or maybe multiplied, or maybe, I do not know what happened. Vitalized, yes. Diversified into all kind of needs of consciousness and expression, whereas within Vedic meters we have only few types. I can 1, 2, 3. That's it. We have this 8-syllabic pada, that means ta 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 ta. Spada, 3 times Gayatri, 4 times Anushtup, 5 times Pankti, and so on. But the same 8 syllables pada, the same. What do you call it in English? There's a name for it. It will come.
Quarter.
Yeah, the quarter, which is pada, which is also not verse, but there is a strophes. This strophe is the combination of steps within a particular verse. Yeah, there are 4 of them, for example, and there are 4 padas, and each pada has 8 syllables. And it is iambic, for example, as it is in Anushtup or Gayatri. So it will be ta 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 ta. Yes, this is the pada. Or there is Trishtup, another meter, a variation which is very different. Opening is iambic, 11 syllables. Opening, cadenza, and closing. There will be 3 parts. There will be breathing in, holding to the top, and breathing out. And this would differ. There will be opening 4 syllables or 5 different types of Trishtup. And the closing will be mainly trochaic and opening iambic. So I'm analyzing it from the point of view of Greek poetry, not from the point of view of Chandas, because Chandas does not do this analysis. Yeah? Chandas as the Vedanga. So what is interesting that here you cannot say the whole 11 syllables in one breath. You need to stop somewhere. You had to make a pause. So today we had to look into this abodhi agnih samidha jananam. This is Trishtup. You can feel that each word, each phrase finds its own kind of place in this exposition. It is vaster. It's not one lineage which is uninterrupted. There is a pause in between. You have to take a breath before you say the next. So, and there is also Jagati. Jagati is a 12-syllabic pada, where there are. So these three are major varieties, which when combined they create more varieties, but these are the three major varieties: 8-syllabic, 12-syllabic, and 11-syllabic pada. That's it. There is also, of course, a 10-syllabic pada, which is trochaic, which is very different. Parashara Shaktya writes with this. It is Virat, which is very rare rhythm. Only few hymns are there, but it is existing in the Rig Veda. But major is 8, 12, and 11. That's it. Now, if you compare it to all the varieties of in the post-Vedic, you will find so many prosodic characteristics of heavy and laghu, guru and laghu syllables, built totally on different non-rhythmical, but on the heaviness of the syllables and lightness on the syllable, which is not rhythmical, which is not syllabic, which is not counting syllables anymore. But Veda is more rhythmic, more Shaiva in a way. It's like a rhythm, like a Damaru, as you said. Yeah? Okay, that was an overview of the syllables, and today I wanted us to look into the book number 5. Let me project.
I just shared a talk that I came across by Anthony Metivier. It's a TED talk where he's talking of silencing his mind, but just by chanting loads of Sanskrit Upanishadic texts.
Oh, thank you. This is very valuable.
Yeah, it's really worth listening to it. So what we were talking about, that when one gets into that rhythm, then the mind blanks out, because you then tune into something much greater than the mind stuff. So what Charles was also asking, in a sense, it's very interesting, because the Vedic rishis, when they had basically quietened their mind in order to listen to answers to fundamental questions of who they are, what is the purpose of everything. So there was a bit of a direction in their quest, but it was a blank. It was like they were completely neutral in their vibratory system, which received these answers from them. So once they became neutral, the signals of the universe impacted them, and without any interference manifested as the entire Samhita part, or the mantra part of the Vedas. So they reflect that those sounds are, in a sense, direct perceptions based on the angle of their quest. And what is beautiful is that these answers are there all the time. So while it is ancient, it is very new. So any mind that blanks itself out will receive these answers, the same answers. And that's why it was like the Sanatana Dharma, these eternal laws that are there. It's, that linearity, the concept of linearity is non-existent in this way of life. That's just one perspective.
I was thinking while you were talking that when I had this hammering in the night of Shakespeare's rhythm and words were coming, what was interesting that when the words are filling the rhythm properly, whatever it is, it can be very, even not very significant meaning, it has power and it has meaning. Meaning, they as if the words acquire meaning from the rhythm also. Not only that they have their own, but also they acquire a new kind of position or new kind of importance in a way, or power, as it were. They acquire a new power, and they start shining more meaningful than they are in the prosaic speech. So that would be another very big topic for us to learn to speak in poetry, to express ourselves in poetic rhythms. to allow the words to feel the rhythms of which we acquired or which we use to manifest the speech. It doesn't matter that it is not what we want to say, because what we want to say, our mind, noisy mind, wants to say things which are usually not meaningful much, and they're just reflecting the noise of reality of our noise. But if we want to manifest something more than that, then we need the rhythmic poetic speech.
Sorry.
Then the words would acquire new meaning. That's on new power, I would say.
It was interesting. I was reading the Viveka Chudamani of Shankaracharya, and I was reading it aloud at some point. I was just trying to go through the text. And very interestingly, just by the very mere fact of reading that literature and reading it again and again, or just reading it aloud, suddenly enabled a certain creative composition to come out, just like that. So it was, I composed another 6 verses, just like that. And I haven't touched, composition and poetry in Sanskrit for a while. But just falling in tune with that spirit, with that vision, with those words and all, it drew a certain inspiration and the words that came from it. So when you talked about in the beginning that the human aspiration and the Godhead, so when through the rhythm, through the chandas you align, then the cows come, then the revelations come, then the channel is established, and then the flow happens.
Yeah.
More.
Then the words acquire higher meaning, higher power, and they come in a right sequence. They start writing and taking the right order how to come, because they find finally the more dynamic meaning or more universal significance, and they want to reveal that. By the way, Aurobindo also says about this that when he compares Homer and Shakespeare and all these great poets, Valmiki, Vyasa, Homer and Shakespeare, 4 of these greatest according to him, he says that Homer is not writing something very extraordinary in the topics. The topics are quite down to earth, as it were, but and there's nothing much inspiring. Even in Shakespeare, it's very, very kind of about the kings, about their problems, about their thoughts, whatever it is. But the speech, the dynamic speech, the rhythm, the word has a power. And because of that, all those ordinary, so to say, events, as it were, becomes extraordinary.
But is it also because they managed to capture something of the universal within the local?
Yeah, well, again, rhythm, again, coming to the same story. The words, ordinary stories acquired extraordinary powers, extraordinary meanings, and everything plays out very differently now. Yeah, because of this rhythm. So we are talking about the same, only I'm just expanding in a different direction, which was not even expected by me to go there. But truly, I never thought of these things. But I had a friend, Bruno, maybe you knew Bruno, he was from the ashram, he is the father of Aurobindo. So one of the firstborn in Auroville. And we were reading with him Mahabharata, and he hardly had any knowledge of Sanskrit grammar. But when he was reading Mahabharata, he was translating to me. We just read Mahabharata one after the other book. And he was reading and translating. I was only listening. I had to catch by listening. And what was interesting, that he was translating it correctly. And I was wondering, how do you know? I said, because you don't know grammar well, but you translate it so correctly. There was no translation, only Sanskrit text. And he said, it is in the rhythm. He read Homer and Vergili before, and because of this, he acquired certain kind of quality to rhythmically understand how the meanings are distributed within the Chandas. It's an amazing thing. It's just to the same point that even meanings can be recognized if you allow this Chandas to act. Because you know certain words, but you do not know grammatical connection, but you don't analyze grammatically how they are connected. You follow the rhythm, and it is understood. So today was a lot on rhythm and meter and chandas. So we have Rishi, who calls with this rhythm, who built the hymn as a chariot by which he can rise to heaven. We have the Devata, which is filling with the light of consciousness this particular energetic formation of rhythm, meter. And then this is the birth of a new consciousness. And these are the hymns. Okay, we can stop here today. It was again introductory, but very, very meaningful. Thank you for this beautiful filling in with all the meanings and discussions. And I'm glad that we are all supporting each other in growth and understanding.